Welcome to the Purposeful MD podcast. As a physician, you've sacrificed so much of your life for other people, your patients, your family, your friends, and your colleagues. What would it feel like to spend time doing what you enjoy and to live without guilt? I'm your host, Dr. Laura Sutton, a family physician, certified coach, and business owner. If you're a medical professional on a journey towards your most purposeful life, a life with more time and energy, and ultimately more joy, then this is the podcast for you. This is part one of my conversation with Dr. Amna Shabbir. I do want to warn you that there is mention of suicide in this episode. If you are feeling depressed and need support, please use the hotline 988. That hotline is available 24/7. Please use it if needed. You are not alone. Welcome, Dr. Amna Shabbir, to the Purposeful MD podcast. It's so good to have you.
So excited to be here, Laura.
Yes. So a little bit about you. Dr. Amna Shabbir is a physician, primary care physician, and a certified coach. She's the founder and CEO of the Early Career Physicians Institute. She's a Duke certified wellness and life coach, a dual board certified geriatrician internist, and super mom to two young girls. She passionately supports new attending physicians in navigating post-medical training challenges, helping them to excel both personally and professionally. Dr. Shabbir and I met through a mentorship program through the Physician Coaching Alliance. And I know that you're a primary care physician previously in a hospital setting as well. I'm really inspired by your passion and your commitment to new physicians. I know you're very active on social media and you're always sharing your wisdom and inspiring others. So appreciate you being on. It's great to talk to you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sutton. I'm so happy to be here. And yes, that journey from being a primary care physician and then now being a geriatrician, it's definitely been an interesting road, nonetheless. And early career physician well-being is very near and dear to my heart. That's the message I want to share, that early career physicians are supported. And that's what keeps me going.
Yeah. So I want to talk about your journey and I want to talk about what you do to support early career physicians. So where would you like to start?
I think let's start from my journey as an early career physician. And
Yeah.
a lot of times, people have adverse journeys and issues that come up during medical training, which is a very challenging time of our life. Medical training in US, medical training in the world, anywhere, it's not perfect and it's very strenuous. For me, that could have been a time that could have been very traumatic because I had some healthcare issues come up while I was expecting my first daughter. But it wasn't, because I had support and my program director was really vested in my well-being. And because I sought support and she sort of mandated the support because I wasn't one for actually asking for help. I find, if I look back, that time of my life was well done in a way. So the rigors and the burnout of residency were there, but I was supported. So fast forward, I start my career as an early career physician. In the first couple of months, I'm extremely passionate about primary care. I was a primary care track resident. I'm doing all the things, but slowly and gradually, um, burnout starts to set in. And it's very disturbing that this happened in the first couple of months, and I was not expecting it. I completely suppressed it. My first telltale sign was that utter feeling of morning dread when you're sitting in your car and you just don't want to get out and go and just go through your day. And when you go home, all the things that women have to deal with come, I had a toddler at that time, and um, I was then later expecting my second child. So all the things were happening, and I felt very alone. And I felt that I had to also project this perfect image of me knowing everything, in a clinical setting, in a non-clinical setting. And I had to be there for everyone, my patients, my staff, paperwork, my family, all the roles and all the responsibilities. So as an early career physician, in the first couple of years, I burnt out and I didn't want to ask for help. And guess what else happened at that time? The pandemic. So I was pretty crisp before the pandemic started with burnout. But as the pandemic rolled, all of this just became very magnified. I then also subsequently had dealt with postpartum depression a second time. It was depression and anxiety mixed. When my postpartum anxiety and depression got a little bit better, I had a physical injury that required me to sort of be bedbound for a stretch. It was one thing into the other thing, then, and you really come to this point in life when you start reflecting, can I do this any longer? And if I can I do it well? And what else will it take for me to reconsider my life in its totality and my existence as a human, not just as a physician? It was at that time I really had to search deep inside and look at my reason and my why for continuing to be a physician. And I realized that I love taking care of older adults. And so for me, the answer to my burnout initially was to go back in medical training and do a fellowship in geriatrics and then reinventing myself as a physician. And following that, I'm now continuing to stay in a limited part-time clinical role where I help older adults and take care of them in rehab facilities and nursing homes, while also giving back backwards to my younger self, who was an early career physician, and helping other early career physicians through my institute and supporting them so that they don't have to walk that journey alone and they can recognize the power that they have.
That is, thank you for sharing all of that. It is just tremendous that you are sitting here talking about this and that you've come out on the other side, and so many things in what you just shared. First of all, the fact that you had support when you were in your residency program, and you mentioned a couple different times, I didn't feel like I could ask for help. And that was one of those scenarios where it sounds like your program director mandated it, was the word that you used. And the fact that you had somebody that recognized how challenging that time was for you and supported you in getting the rest and the help that you needed to take care of yourself and your daughter that you were expecting. And then as you progressed and becoming a new physician and feeling like you had to do all the things, coming home from work and doing what we call the second shift, taking care of a toddler, taking care of a house, whatever, all those things that we have to do to maintain this image. You mentioned that feeling like you had to do everything perfect is just such a recipe for burnout, like you said, and that you experienced that and adding the pandemic and mental health challenges, physical health challenges. It's just it's such a testament to you that you're sitting here, and the fact that you're also giving back and providing that level of support and coaching to early career physicians so that no one has to feel that they're alone. It's just beautiful. I just want to honor that. It's thank you for being you and for sharing all of that.
Thank you for your kind words. And you know, I share my story and I started sharing last year, but I am by no means special. There are so many, I feel that I am the sum total of all the other humans that are out there in some shape or form. And if I could just have someone not feel alone, have someone have the courage to ask for help, and that's what I'm trying to model. Because when we are thinking burnout and mental health struggles are issues that happen to other people. That's one way to look at it. And then the other way is also this very jaded, cynical way of looking, oh, another burnt out physician. What else is new? So somewhere in the middle, you have to recognize when we throw words like burnout, what does that actually mean? That's a clinical word almost. When you use the term moral injury, what does that actually look like? And so if I had to explain what it looked like for me, I felt heartbreak. I felt I felt let down in a way that all the passion and the drive that I had to provide primary care to my patients who absolutely deserve it. I've been on both sides of the exam table with physical challenges. and the system is broken. And I wanted to be that model primary care physician who was doing all the things, and it was so hard. So if we can embody asking for help, it it can allow another human to really get the courage to ask for help. And also, for me, when I say heartbreak, it's like loss of dream. And this is what I had always wanted to do. In my core, I feel I'll always be a primary care physician. The primary care physicians are the backbone of the healthcare system. So when you can't live your dream, you have a broken heart. And that bleeds into your energy level, your drive, your purposefulness. And now I have found that in a different way as I practice geriatrics and helping families. And then also, I'm finding the same purpose helping other early career physicians find that voice. So you might hear the term burnout being thrown around, but it might look very different for you. For some, it even looks like, I mean, there was a time I felt that I was going through a sort of identity death. I'm trying to create this whole new person who is okay asking for help, who is now okay talking about the struggles that she went through. Whereas before I had to be all the things and it's like that all or none thinking. You have to be perfect and you have to do all the things, and medicine is practiced only in one right way. And your creation outside of that doesn't exist.
Yeah. You mentioned the identity death, and what I hear from you is this grief for this person that you really wanted to be when you were small. I mean, we go into healthcare because we love it and we're passionate about it. We love taking care of people. We love the science behind it. And when it turns out to be not what we thought it was going to be and not what we dreamed it was going to be, it's really very challenging. And then you brought up moral injury too. And I know there's so many different terms about burnout and moral injury and different definitions. I love how you frame that. What I picture is a physician who really wants to do the right thing for their patient and can't for whatever reason. Either they lack the time, lack the energy, the resources, whatever that looks like. And that is really, really difficult for any physician. And I think at least in my experience in the academic space, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, we tended to be a little bit insulated from lack of resources that patients experience because we can order the tests that we need and we can get those types of treatments or whatever that we might not be able to access in a primary care space, or especially if we're in a rural or underserved area, then we notice some of those gaps a lot more. Just they could become a lot more significant and more impactful on our careers and what our patients can access. I don't know if that's something that you experienced. I see you nodding, so it sounds like, yeah, it's
So I definitely agree that that can be a big issue. I was in an institute where resources in the area and resources were available, and I had learners with me as well. So I think this would be a perfect example of when you have all the resources and you are actually in a very resource replete area, but the resource that is you have only so much to give
right.
because the way the whole healthcare system model is set up for primary care in traditional insurance-based organizations, you have to produce, you have to crank out. And if you have 15 to 20 minutes from the time a patient checks in at the front desk to the time they get roomed, and then they have the care that they need and they deserve, which is all the things as a primary care physician, which you should be addressing. Frankly, it's appalling. That's the expectation. Imagine like the cognitive load that you're carrying constantly. And if one person is late and then you feel that you have to see them, which we all do, we feel that way. And the domino effect that starts in at the end of the day, everyone is gone except for that doctor sitting and answering and doing all the things. So I was doing all the things and I was being all the people, but then at the end of the day, I didn't know who I was. And I would describe it that way at 8:30 p.m. when I'm walking inside my house after a day of clinic, I felt like a shell of a human. And then we wonder why we have an epidemic of physician suicide, why people are not asking for help. And externally, yeah, I would go home and then I would get ready for my second shift, whatever sleep, whatever other things I could cram in the middle, and the next day you wake up and you repeat. So that also what ends up happening is then you're in the conveyor belt. That's it. You're stuck in a loop. This is an Instagram reel that you are stuck in real time unless you consciously make an effort to unstuck yourself before it's too late. And these are all great conversations. I caution anyone listening to this, if you are experiencing this and not doing anything, this can turn into a very bad situation. And I am not making this up. We have stats over stats over stats of physicians burning out, leaving medicine, the incoming medical students not wanting to do clinical medicine because they look at how we're practicing medicine. And then there's also this important thing that I want all patients, if there's anybody non-clinical listening to this, or what's happening to your doctors is going to ultimately impact you. And as a consumer, you should be very, very cognizant of this. So we can make this entire case of, if we don't change and if we don't make a small step towards change, how awful it can impact you on an individual and on a system level.
Absolutely. And the impact on patients, we can't emphasize that enough because like you said, we are the resource. And I love the way that you pointed that out, that if we are depleted, we can't provide that care for patients, and patients need to worry about this too. There was a study, maybe you remember where it came out, I'm blanking, that said that primary care physicians need 27 hours in a day to address everything that patients need addressed. And that's not like we need 27 hours in our day to fulfill ourselves. That's 27 hours in a work day.
Yeah.
And so we know that our patients are not getting the adequate care when we're burned out. And that is heartbreaking. I agree with you. And I appreciate what you said about, if anybody is listening to this and feeling this way, definitely we want you to reach out. The number 988 is a hotline for anybody who is not just feeling the need or feeling the desire to hurt themselves, but anybody who's feeling depressed or feeling like they're stuck or needing to talk to somebody is an absolute great resource. And so I appreciate that you pointed that out, because I know your mission is to make our physicians feel like they're not alone, and they're truly not.
Thank
Yeah.
you, Laura. And I can't stress that enough, because what what all of this does is, when you're in the pit of burnout or when it's slowly setting in, even asking for help is exhausting. And I mean, this was the first thing that I noticed. People are like, well, I was listening to great podcasts at that time. I was reading books. I slowly started to do that. That opened my mind up to possibilities. And as I was seeking help in other shapes and forms, the counseling, coaching, it started to get me. But the first thing I noticed about my entire situation was I was so tired. Asking for help was exhausting.
Hmm.
And I felt like all the things, all the people that are out there, the cynicism was very real. Like, that's all stuff that works for all these, I don't know what positive streak these people have. This is not going to work for me. All primary care physicians practicing in traditional medicine are pretty much miserable. And that's going to be my life. And I'm going to have to pretend that it's not, because that's what I was doing, right? Every day, when you don't take action, that's also action. That's also a choice that you're making. If you're feeling awful and not doing anything about it, that's also a choice. And you always have choice. And we need to recognize the agency that we have as physicians and the cost of your inaction. The cost of not asking for help is huge. It's tremendous. So once I took that first step, then slowly everything started to become tangible and attainable.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you said about asking for help. There's still a stigma around it. And at least I'm curious to your perspective in the academic space now. When I was in training, if we asked for help for we called it scut work, right? It is going to transport the patients down to X-ray. And then when they're done, you wait and you take the X-ray film, because I'm old enough to trained before digital x-rays. So you grab the film and you bring it back with you, or you draw your own labs, or you do all these things that typically physicians are not doing on their own. There are other staff to take care of these tasks in a clinical environment. And yet if we pass that off, well, the nurse can draw the blood, or if you're a resident and say the student can do it, then you're seen as weak or not a team player. And so there can be really a stigma around asking for help. I'm curious if that's still the case in academic environments that you're seeing.
I think it is, it will be institute dependent, and that just goes to show that there are organizations and training programs that are really setting a tone for collaboration. For example, in my fellowship, the conversation was all about interdisciplinary care. And I just felt that was such a rich environment where I was collaborating with physical therapy, occupational therapy, pharmacy to bring about care that older adults need. And it was just so incredible. But I also have spoken and talked with individuals who just felt that the culture very much is that it's your job and you do it, and you do what needs to be done, and that's it. And you just don't make a sound, especially add a layer of being a woman, add a layer of being a minority, any other layers to that. You might be perceived as somebody who is not flexible. And then the thing that I detest more than any is the labeling that follows. When we start labeling our trainees and labeling our colleagues, be very careful of that. And the person who is getting labeled, I mean, are you labeling them? Is the intent so that they can get help? What is the intent? Because labeling never works. And even if you're labeling someone positively, this person is great. They're getting dopamine hits and they're just going to keep doing what you think is great till the point that they're going to get exhausted. And I carried a lot of positive labels, which I'm slowly getting rid of because they weren't serving me. But the attitude I see sometimes is, especially when I'm trying to help a trainee, they were labeled as not being a team player. And when you piece through like factual evidence, a lot of time there's no evidence to support that. So then you're just really and honestly on ground destigmatizing asking for help. This is what that looks like. Here's another barrier, because if you ask for help, let me give you an adverse reaction to that. So when we talk about conditioning, there is no better way to have the Pavlovian conditioning than anytime you ask for help, anytime you look around, you're going to get tased and then you stop.
Right, right. And I love what you said before about when you ask for help. When any of us ask for help, we give permission to those around us to do so. We are reducing that stigma person by person, one by one, physician by physician. And when we can model that for other people, then it has a ripple effect, like you said. Thank you for listening to the Purposeful MD podcast. If you like what you hear, please rate and review the show. Please also visit my website, www.thepurposefulmd.com, for free downloads or to discuss working with me as your coach.